Robin used to be a corporate hotshot, but he got totally fried by the crazy deadlines and constant digital noise. He had a fancy job and a fat paycheck, but his mornings were a mess: emails, endless phone scrolling, and coffee gulped down without even tasting it. One morning, super tired, Robin looked in the mirror and asked himself, what's the whole point? That question really hit him hard. He realized he was just going through the motions, not really living. Then, during a week alone at his grandpa's cabin, he found a book called Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. The title itself got him. As he read, he learned that people in Okinawa, especially in a town called Ajimai, lived super long, happy lives. Their secret? They'd found their Ikigai, their reason for getting out of bed each day. Robin read about fishermen, gardeners, and artists who loved their work, even in their 90s. He realized he'd traded purpose for just getting things done. These old Japanese folks didn't retire. They were still kicking because their lives had meaning. And that meaning, not money, was what really mattered. The first thing that stuck with Robin was this: how long and how happy you live depends not on what you do, but why you do it. That night, he actually wrote in a journal, "What could my Ikigai be? Lessons from a long-living town." Robin was so eager to learn more that he booked a trip to Okinawa. He wanted to see the places where people lived past 100, not in hospitals, but in their gardens, kitchens, and community centers, full of life. Ajimai, the village of longevity, was all quiet, sunny streets, fresh air, and old people laughing like kids. Robin was amazed. He met a 102-year-old guy who still did karate and a 97-year-old woman who danced every night. He thought there would be some special supplement, crazy diet, or miracle herb, but instead, he found something way simpler: friendship, activity, and purpose. Spending time with the villagers, he noticed they were always moving, but in a relaxed way. No gyms, they just garden cooked, cleaned, and walked. They didn't stress about calories. They ate until they were about 80% full. And they weren't alone. They had close groups of friends called moai who helped each other through everything. These weren't just habits. They were how they lived. Robin saw how being simple, thankful, and connected shaped everything they did. He wrote, "Maybe the secret isn't doing a ton. It's doing what's important with the people who are important." One morning, he was drinking tea with an old man who smiled and said, "If you want a long life, don't rush. Find joy in the little things. Help people." That's all. That hit Robin hard. Living a long life wasn't about fancy technology or working yourself to death. It was about being in sync with life. Just watching the sunrise with nothing else to do, Robin felt more alive than he had in years. His mind calmed down. He felt open. And he finally stopped running. He started thinking about not just living longer, but living a richer life. Flow, the state Robin had forgotten. After a few weeks in Okinawa, Robin went back home with a calmer mind. But the city's craziness hit him hard. The traffic, notifications, and overflowing inbox all came back. This time, though, he felt different. He didn't want to run away, but change things. One morning, Robin recalled reading about flow in Ikigai, that feeling of being super focused, totally absorbed, and productive without even trying. The book talked about how artists, coders, writers, cooks, and athletes lose track of time because they're doing something that combines skill, passion, and challenge. Flow wasn't just about getting stuff done. It was about being present and free from distractions. Robin realized he hadn't felt that way in ages. His job had become scattered and messed up by constant interruptions. Meetings, social media, Slack. He was always online but never truly there. Robin decided to find that flow again. So he cleared his schedule one Sunday. He turned off all notifications, made tea, sat at his desk, and started planning a project he had put aside. A book idea he used to be excited about. Hours flew by. His fingers flew across the keyboard. It was like time vanished. By the end of the day, Robin felt great. Not because he had created something amazing, but because he felt like himself again. In Ikigai, the authors explain that flow happens when the task is hard enough to keep you interested, but not too hard that it stresses you out. It's the perfect balance. Robin started organizing his day around this idea, doing intense work in long stretches without interruptions, and saving easier tasks for later. He also stopped multitasking. No more listening to podcasts while emailing or checking messages while eating. Robin realized that focus is important. The more present he was, the more alive he felt, even when just chopping vegetables or walking in the park. A line from the book stuck with him. The happiest people aren't those who reach for the sky. They're the ones who spend more time in a state of flow. Now, Robin was after flow, not fame. Slowly, his life started improving, not by changing the world, but by mastering himself. The art of staying young while growing old. Robin started seeing things in life that he'd missed because he was so focused on work. Going through Ikigai, he got a big insight. Aging isn't something to dread if you live with a sense of purpose and balance. Robin recalled meeting an old person in Okinawa who didn't need a cane, smiled like a kid, and remembered old stories. It wasn't a miracle, it was how they lived. The book said that daily habits like moving around, being with others, and staying curious kept their minds sharp and body strong. They didn't quit living after a certain age. They stayed active and helpful. Because of this, Robin started changing his habits. He used to skip breakfast and rush into his day. Now, mornings were special. A walk, a simple breakfast, and some quiet time before work. Instead of sitting at his desk for too long, he took breaks to stretch, do some yoga, or have walking meetings. He quit seeing exercise as a chore and started seeing movement as good for him. Gardening, cleaning, even dancing to old music became fun. Robin realized that moving wasn't just something he had to do. It was something to enjoy. What surprised him most in the book was the idea that staying young wasn't about fighting age. It was about staying curious, thankful, and useful. The old people in Okinawa had stuff to do, people to teach, gardens to take care of, and stories to tell. They weren't ignored, they were respected. Robin began helping a younger co-worker. He shared ideas, not to feel important, but to stay involved. He felt more alive when he was helping. He wrote, "To stay young, I have to keep moving, not just my body, but my spirit too." This reminded Robin that being truly young comes from having a purpose, one that includes love, movement, helping others, and wonder. He wasn't scared of getting older anymore. He was actually excited about it. Gentle movements, longer life. In Okinawa, life seemed to slow down, but people were always doing something. Robin noticed folks in their 80s and 90s in Ajamai villages, picking veggies, sweeping, or stretching in the sun. They weren't in a rush, but they weren't sitting still either. Chapter 5 of Ikigai talked about easy, regular movement as a key to living a long life. It wasn't about tough gym workouts. It was about moving naturally as part of your day. Robin used to think getting healthy meant intense workouts and strict diets crammed around his desk job. Health was a chore. This showed him a more lasting idea. Long, healthy lives come from easy habits, not pushing yourself hard. Okinawans do radio taiso, simple stretches broadcast every morning. The book said it's a community thing, people stretching together in parks or even at home. Robin gave it a shot with a video. At first, it felt too simple, but he ended up feeling calm and energized. More than that, he felt part of something bigger. The chapter brought to mind something he read. The body you move is the body you keep. He started walking more just to be present. He changed his office so he could stand while working. He even started a small garden on his balcony. The book mentioned that in blue zones like Okinawa, movement is normal and needed, not a choice. People don't have gym memberships, but they walk hills, grow food, and visit neighbors. Robin realized he'd made self-care too hard. He'd focused on doing well and forgot to just be. Now, bending to water plants, standing to read, or stretching while making tea became part of his day. That night, he wrote in his journal, "Maybe I don't need to chase a long life. Maybe I just need to keep moving gently every day, and life will take care of the rest." It was simple like the Okinawans, but in that simplicity, Robin felt his energy come back, which made him smile. The art of gentle nourishments. Robin was chilling on a bench outside this tea shop in Okinawa, sipping jasmine green tea. Old villagers were laughing together, sharing sweet potato and goya. They weren't in a rush or eating too much. This chapter talked about hara hachibiyu, which is like, eat until you're 80% full. Robin was like, "Really? That's it?" He'd been having energy crashes and stress eating for ages. The book made him realize it's not just about what you eat, but how much, when, and why. He started seeing how the old Okinawans treated meals like a thank you thing. No rushing, just enjoying each bite. They ate mostly veggies, tofu, miso soup, and seaweed, not much meat. The food looked good, not too much. And it was all about feeding your body, not just pigging out. One line stuck with Robin. Less is more when you're eating to live longer. He thought about his own habits. Fast food between meetings, huge meals because he was tired. He'd been using food as fuel, not for balance. That night, he made a small meal of steamed greens, rice, and tofu with ginger. He ate slow, felt grateful, and stopped before he was stuffed. Felt lighter in body and mind. The people who lived longest didn't have strict diets, just simple eating habits. In Okinawa, they mostly ate plants, didn't overeat, and skipped processed sugar. Robin started making small changes. He switched energy drinks for green tea, ate smaller portions, and stopped snacking so much. After a few days, he felt different, clearer, calmer, and more energetic. Plus, eating became a quiet moment, a reminder to chill out. Robin wrote in his journal, "I used to get energy from coffee and sugar, but real energy comes from listening to what your body's telling you." Chapter 6 wasn't about a diet. It was about a way of thinking, which Robin was now taking into every meal, not with guilt, but with thanks. Movement is life. The sun was just peeking over the little village when Robin noticed something cool. Walking around the small Okinawan streets, he saw older people, some way past 90, just moving and enjoying themselves. One lady was sweeping her stone path easily. A man was getting herbs from his garden, bending down like he was much younger. It didn't look like the gym exercise Robin knew. Still, they seemed very healthy. This part of Ikigai showed something simple. Moving is more about doing it consistently than doing it hard. The people who live the longest aren't always marathon runners. They're walkers, gardeners, they do Tai Chi, and they love to dance. Their bodies are always moving naturally. Robin used to go from crazy workouts to sitting around all day. Now, he got why he fell off. He remembered the saying, "Things in motion stay in motion." But in Okinawa, that motion was full of fun, meaning and it lasted. The book talked about how these older people fit physical activity into their everyday lives without thinking. Gardening, cooking, walking to the store, cleaning, they did it all with care. It reminded Robin of what his grandpa used to say, "Don't let your body get stiff from sitting around." Feeling motivated, Robin started his own daily thing. When the sun came up, he joined some older people for stretching and Tai Chi in the town square. He didn't push himself too hard. He started listening to his body. His joints felt better. His back didn't hurt as much, and he felt clearer. One story in the book stood out. A 102-year-old karate master still did his karate moves every day, not for prizes, but to keep in touch with his energy and his Ikigai. Robin saw that moving with focus becomes more than just physical. It becomes kind of spiritual. He also saw how moving helped people feel connected. Group walks, working in community gardens, eating together, all made people feel part of their surroundings and close to each other. No one felt alone. Moving created friendships. Robin wrote in his journal that night, "I used to move to escape stress. Now I move to enjoy life." By moving slowly, Robin found real freedom. As he finished the chapter, he wasn't thinking about six-packs or counting steps. He was thinking about living a long, happy life and taking care of his body. Resilience and anti-fragility. That morning, the island air smelled so strongly of jasmine, but Robin was a mess of nerves. He'd just gotten a news flash from home. His startup was in trouble, a big investor bailed. The old Robin would have freaked out, felt lost, and buried himself in anything to escape. But this time, he felt surprisingly calm. He opened Ikigai that day. Chapter 8 was about Get Tough, when things are chaotic. Robin had never thought of himself like that. For years, he hated being uncomfortable, avoided any chaos, and got mad at setbacks. Now, he was starting to see that tough times were chances to change for the better. The chapter had stories about Japanese war survivors, people who lived through earthquakes, and old folks in Okinawa who survived crazy typhoons. They were all super tough because they had been through so much. What really got to Robin was how they could just bounce back emotionally. They could adapt fast, not panic, and stay focused, no matter what. One old farmer told Robin, "A storm might wreck my crops, but the soil gets a rest." There are two sides to everything. Robin thought about those words. He remembered times he had fallen apart, burnout, doubting himself, changing careers. He thought those experiences had broken him. But now, because of Ikigai, he saw them as tough training. Every tough time taught him something, made him more determined, and brought him closer to who he really was. The book talked about little things you could do every day to get tougher, such as writing down your feelings, being thankful even when things are bad, doing breathing exercises when you panic, and hanging out with people who support you. Robin started doing these things. Every morning, he started a little get tough ritual where he would say a quote, imagine himself getting through tough times, and remind himself that you grow when you're uncomfortable. One quote from the chapter really stuck with him. Pain is going to happen. Feeling miserable about it is your choice. He walked through the village that day, and he wasn't worried about the future. He felt ready. He wasn't trying to dodge the bad things in life anymore. He was learning to take them, learn from them, and get tougher each time. This wasn't just about surviving. It was about changing yourself. The power of flow. The sky over Okinawa mixed lavender and orange as Robin had his morning tea. His journal was open next to him, filled with sketches, quotes, and thoughts from his trip. But something still bothered him, a feeling he couldn't shake. He'd found peace and a sense of purpose, but was missing that feeling of being completely lost in something. That day, he opened Ikigai to read a chapter about flow. The book said flow is when you're so into what you're doing that nothing else matters. Time just goes away. You forget about yourself, your worries, and even where you are. A psychologist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi came up with the idea, and it's not just for artists or athletes. It can make your life happier and more meaningful. For people living with Ikigai, flow is something they do every day. Robin stopped. When was the last time he'd felt that way? Not when he was on social media or answering emails, but really alive and focused. He remembered one evening in college, years ago, when he'd sketched with charcoal for hours. No hunger, no tiredness, just creating. That feeling had gone away as he'd gotten older. He wanted it back. The book talked about how old people in Okinawa found flow in gardening, calligraphy, martial arts, or even fishing. It wasn't about being great. It was just about being present, getting lost in something that's hard enough to challenge you, but not so hard that it's too much. Robin was determined, so he spent the next few days trying different things. Carving wooden figures with local artists, helping cook in the kitchen, and even joining a kids' drumming group. He realized flow wasn't about being rich or important. It was about rhythm, a bit of challenge, and enjoying what you were doing. One part of the book really hit him. Flow is where your passion, skill, and purpose meet. Robin thought he'd put art back into his life. Not for money or to show people, but for that feeling of flow. Each morning, he'd draw for an hour. It became a special time where everything else went away. He wasn't trying to find meaning. He was living it. He also noticed something cool. The more time he spent in flow, the better he felt during the day. Flow was like a mirror, showing him who he really was, without all the distractions. As he closed the book that night, Robin felt like he was on the right track. He wasn't just learning about Ikigai. He was living it. Move like the wind. Movements for lasting life. The morning sun sparkled on the leaves as Robin sat with some older folks in a calm Okinawan courtyard. No noisy gym stuff, no clocks, no crazy sweating. Just easy breathing, slow stretching, and smooth moves that looked like a dance. This was Radio Taiso, a Japanese thing where people do easy exercises together every day, mostly older folks. Here, Robin was going to learn something pretty simple, but important. Moving keeps you alive. Robin figured out why these old people lived so long and stayed active. Not because they worked out hard, but because they never stopped getting around. They grew their food, did Tai Chi, walked, and danced at festivals to keep their bodies going in simple and fun ways. Robin thought about how different this was from what he used to do. Back in the city, moving was either hardcore, gym workouts, fast sprints, or not at all, just sitting at a desk all day. Here, moving was just part of everyday life, easy and natural. The book told how easy regular moving helps with swelling, gets your body going, makes you think clearer, and, most of all, helps you live longer. Also, these people didn't work out like we think of it. They just lived active lives. Robin helped an old man trim his bonsai trees and saw how good he was at balancing, how strong he was, and how focused he stayed. It wasn't a workout. It was just something he did. One line from the book really hit him. If you move your body, you get to keep it. Robin started doing little bits of moving through the day. A quick walk after eating. Stretching with the locals in the morning. Balancing on the rocks by the sea without shoes. He stopped thinking about fitness as separate from life. It was all the same. This part of the book taught him that moving doesn't have to be hard to really change you. Being steady, gentle, and focused was what really mattered. Every step he took in Okinawa was more than just moving. It felt good for his soul. With every slow move, he felt more alive. And in that easy rhythm, Robin felt more connected to what he was meant to do. Not by pushing hard, but by going with the flow. The bond that keeps us alive. As the sun set in Okinawa, turning the sky orange, Robin sat under a banyan tree, hearing laughter all around. Kids were playing, old people were drinking tea, and neighbors were sharing food like there was no rush. No one was on their phones. Everyone was just there, together. For Robin, it was super different from his lonely city life, where talking people often felt fake. He was seeing something cool. Moai. Basically, a group of friends who stick together for life, helping each other out. Chapter 11 of Ikigai chats about how important friends are for living a long and happy life. Robin found out that Moai wasn't just a social thing. It was a real promise to have each other's backs, in good times and bad. These people checked in on each other all the time, shared money when things got tough, and cheer each other on for even the smallest wins. The book said that being alone is as bad for you as smoking. But having good friends is one of the best ways to live a long and good life. Robin remembered something the book said. The people around you change how well and how long you live. After hanging out in the village, Robin started his own moai. They asked him to come to parties, got him involved in what they were doing, and treated him like family. He'd spent years not trusting people because of his job, but he began to relax. For the first time in ages, he felt like people really saw him and cared about him. He also saw that the villagers cared about getting along. If there were fights, they fixed them calmly. No one was trying to be better than anyone else. They were all just part of the group. Being part of a community wasn't just something they did. It was their lives. Robin saw that this was the answer to feeling lonely, which is a big problem these days. The book taught him that feeling like you belong isn't just nice. You need it to live. Being part of something bigger, having people who want to see you tomorrow, that's what really matters. Robin had spent years trying to make it on his own, but in Okinawa, he realized something that shocked him. You can't become yourself alone. You need others. Resilience. Robin had heard tales of tough warriors and philosophers who took suffering in stride, but he'd never seen folks wear peace of mind like a shield, like the older people on Okinawa did. He was amazed not just by how active they were, but by how steady their emotions were, how tough they were mentally, and how chill they stayed when times got rough. The book looks at how these old-timers grew what the Japanese call shikata-ji-nai. Basically, understanding that it is what it is, a calm way of dealing with life's unavoidable troubles. Robin heard stories about loss, war, and disasters. But these people weren't angry or crushed. They carried their past lightly, without holding grudges. Their secret wasn't pretending bad stuff didn't happen, but accepting it and living with a purpose, even when things hurt. One guy, 104 years old, told Robin, "Worry just robs you. Why let it ruin today?" That stuck with Robin. Back in the city, he was always fighting stress, always scared of what would go wrong next. But here, people faced problems calmly, focusing on what they could control, their attitude, what they did, and who they were with. Ikigai tied this toughness to practices like logotherapy and stoicism. Robin saw that being tough wasn't about dodging problems, but about finding purpose through them. The Okinawan elders also did what shrinks call being emotionally flexible, able to admit how they feel, without letting it run their lives. Their lives weren't easy, but they built habits of seeing things differently, staying hopeful and living in the moment. They didn't whine, they adapted. They didn't freak out, they kept going. Robin's takeaway from all this was that being strong wasn't about being unfeeling or unbreakable. It was about finding a deep inner peace that made outside problems less powerful. These people didn't try to dodge the storm. They learned to stay still while it raged around them, living with purpose. Robin was sitting under a cherry blossom tree when it finally clicked. For weeks, he'd been soaking up stories and watching people who seemed genuinely happy. Now, he felt ready to make a change. Ikigai showed him how purpose, being in the zone, bouncing back, healthy habits, and community all work together to create a great life. It was time for Robin to design his own plan. Ikigai isn't something you find once and it's done. You keep adjusting it as you go by doing things, living life, thinking about stuff, and making changes. It's not one set goal, but where four things come together: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid to do. The book had cool examples of regular folks who had found Ikigai in simple jobs. A fisherman who loved waking up early, a teacher who was always passionate, a gardener who thought of each plant as a way to relax. Robin saw that being rich and famous wasn't how you measure Ikigai. It was more about feeling in sync and having energy. When your job gives you energy instead of draining you, and when you're excited about your day, that's when you're closest to your Ikigai. He also read about how important it is to get into a flow state, that feeling of being totally focused on what you're doing. People who lived long and happy lives all did things every day that got them into that state. Whether it was drawing, fighting, or farming, they lost track of time doing something important to them. Robin remembered getting lost in writing back in college, before he got distracted. So he made a promise. Every morning, he would create something without distractions, even if it was just for an hour. The chapter ended with a reminder: don't wait to chase your dreams when you retire. A lot of people put off what they love until they've made it, but Ikigai asks, why not do it now? Start small. Wake up earlier. Create something before you check social media. Focus on what matters, not just what's urgent. Robin looked out, feeling good. He wasn't lost anymore. He had a direction. His days would be shaped by purpose, not just doing the same old thing. Right then, he didn't just get Ikigai, he was living it. Returning home, living the Ikigai way. Robin first had Ajimai, a small, quiet village, months ago. He was looking for something, but wasn't really sure what. Now he's back in the city, stepping off the train and back into his old routine. Nothing around him looks different, but he feels like a changed person. In the end, Ikigai teaches us that what really matters isn't just what you learn on a trip, but how you live your life after. Robin didn't need a special place to live a meaningful life. He just needed to have a goal. As he unpacked, he was also unpacking something more important: a new way of thinking about life. Every morning, he woke up early, not because he had to, but because he was happy to do it. He stopped checking his phone first thing. Instead, he lit a candle, spent some time thinking, and wrote. This was his time to get into a good state of mind, a time of peace and creation. He called it his Ikigai hour. He also got rid of a lot of stuff. He cleared out the things that used to drain his energy, both in his house and in his head. Robin learned from the old people of Okinawa that having less is often better, and that keeping things simple isn't a bad thing. It gives you freedom. He started focusing on important relationships, good food, walks outside, and focusing when he worked, instead of just trying to get a million things done. Most importantly, he stopped thinking of purpose as something far off in the future. He started living it every day, in small acts like being kind, riding with focus, and feeling grateful. He wasn't trying to be rich, famous, or perfect. He was just trying to be helpful, be in the moment, and live in a way that felt right. And that was enough. The book ends with these thoughts. Our Ikigai is different for all of us, but we all want to find meaning. Robin found his meaning, not in big achievements, but in doing things regularly, keeping things simple and helping others. He had started a new life that wasn't faster or louder, but more meaningful. And in that, he had found happiness again. As the city lights shone outside, Robin drank his tea and smiled. He wasn't just reading about Ikigai. He was living it. So now I turn the question to you. What's your Ikigai? Have you found it, or are you still searching, like Robin once was? Remember, it's not something you stumble upon in a rush. It's something you create patiently, day by day. If this story inspired you to look deeper into your own purpose, don't forget to like the video. Leave a comment sharing your biggest takeaway. And subscribe to the channel for more life-changing book journeys like this one.